Hello there. Ian Cathcart, Flemington Hallside, Parish Church Minister. Thought for the day, Thursday the 2nd of July. Still trying to work out where June went. It was bad enough. I lost a Tuesday a few months ago, right at the beginning. Losing a day is bad enough. What happened to June? I got a phone call yesterday from my mother. She phones me, I phone her. You do that checking in thing, and she just said something which was interesting because it's part of the discussions just now. And what I'm just aware of is that people are elders in various churches, along with Flemington Hillside. People are trying to make the right decision in terms of opening the church, and so we were discussing this in a Kirk session meeting, a Zoom meeting on Tuesday night, and I think it's fair to say there's different folks, different ideas, but having canvassed opinion as far as we could, we decided there really isn't that much of a demand, and I thought that was it discussed, so that would be fine. And then, as I say, my mother phoned, and first of all, it was like it was a big secret, and it was just, I think she recognises it's a topic of debate in various churches at the moment, and so her church had decided to open, and her buddies, her friends were kind of checking in, saying, what their experience of it was, and it was really just to let you recognise that not everything is just as you expect. When we were discussing this at the Kirk session, there's kind of like people who, I don't think there were, some people in the congregation would come if it was on, other people don't want to come. So it was a kind of neutral or positive. But having had the conversation with my mother, I hadn't counted on the reaction that her friends had. Because what my mother had said was, they didn't really like it. As in, this is a group of folks, this is their home church, and they went along, it was open for an hour, they could sit. But they didn't like it. In other words, the whole thing ended up being a bit of a negative, specifically because it seemed to emphasise all the things that church usually was, what they would get from a service, and the fact that at the moment all that we're allowed to do is just basically open the sanctuary for silent prayer. It seemed to emphasise all the more, having been in their own church, that all the things they would normally do, they couldn't do. They came away feeling more negative than they had previously. I don't know how many folks that involved. I mean, this is anecdotal in the extreme, and I don't really know. Do they represent what everyone would feel if we all had times of prayer, private prayer in a sanctuary? But I just hadn't thought of the fact people would come and it would end up being, a bit of a negative, because it emphasised all the things that can happen. I think one of the things that we need to recognise, especially in the light of the situation in America, the situation in Leicester, the potential for secondary spikes, as they refer to them, a kind of resurgence of the virus is still real. And so while lockdown is just now a bit passé and a bit boring, and really it's time to get out and about and just get back to normal. The reality is, normal's a long way off. I don't think we're going to be in lockdown as much as we have been, but we're not going back to normal. And so we're not going back to church in the way that we would normally think of as church. And that's not going to happen for a wee while. I'm presuming it's going to be happening kind of once you get to phase 4, assuming we get to phase 4. But I guess I'm just sharing what my mother said for one simple reason. This is difficult. And I know there's lots of folks, I know there's people in Flemington Hallside, if we opened up, they'd be straight in there. But can I suggest it may end up just emphasising all the stuff that you can't do in a service presently, because that's exactly what happened to some folks who call the Church of Scotland their home and whose experience wasn't particularly positive. We have waited this long. I think it's actually appropriate that we should continue to do what we have been doing and recognise if we have sustained it thus far, it's probably best to wait until we're actually going to get something that's a relatively close approximation of what we consider to be a normal service. As normal as you get in Flemington Hallside. The point being, times of private prayer are what you would be encouraged to do every day for yourself in your own home. And you would be encouraged to do them. I mean, I would just call them a quiet time or daily devotions or whatever you choose to call them. But the point is the impetus, the theology, as has been said often, but I think probably bears repeating. God is not dependent on you being in a specific building or a specific postcode or you need to have a contrite heart and a willingness and a wish to spend time with them. I recognise there are other denominations that are presently opening their buildings specifically because they have a tradition of doing that. And if it's something which Episcopalians do or Roman Catholics do, then I'm not making that a difference that says, some kind of condemnation. If it is the way they need to kind of contact God and be close to Him, then open the church and, God bless you. I hope it's a blessing to you. I hope you're a blessing to God. It's not every difference between denominations needs to be some discordant, sectarian, lamentable, sad division in the body of Christ between Christians. Some differences between denominations are just differences. And what I realized is when we're in a church, certain things have to happen. If they don't happen, it's not like, well, this isn't a Christian service. The fact is, if it works for people, then fine. But if all it does is kind of accentuate what we've missed for the last 3 months and just reinforce, if it's a proper service, that's a difficult word to use, but I'm using it. If it's what folks who go to the Church of Scotland think of as a proper service, then right now we can't do that. And I would suggest right now, any substitute is not really cutting it for folks. Might be for other denominations, but not for us. And it's not because we're better or superior, or it's just different folks do different things. And until we accept that, I think we might be opening our churches when we shouldn't be. We're allowed to. It's just right now, I don't think it's going to be to huge benefit. I was told, you keep on telling us to make comment, but I don't know how to make comment. If you're watching this, there's a wee bit below where you have me on your screen. Down here, there's a wee bit where you can put the cursor and type in what you want. Let's face it, most of us are savvy with technology to the degree, if you're seeing this at all, then that's a major achievement. It's more just, if you do want to make comment on what I've said, then put something in. That's where you type down here. Until the next time, go with God, because I know God goes with you everywhere.